Hello everyone, my name is Nick. I am in the Correctional Facilities class, and this is my final video presentation for my prison facility, which is located in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now, the reason why I chose this prison location is because Knoxville, Tennessee has a decent population of people. It's one of the major cities in Tennessee, and the closest prison around them is an hour away. So when I was looking on the map of all the prisons, I decided on this location because there is a fantastic farm rural area that completely surrounds the metropolitan area of Knoxville that is perfect for a prison to be there. One, it'll stimulate the economy by bringing in more jobs. Another thing, the resources are there for food, water, and fuel, medical, fire department, everything's there. Number three, the commute for the prisoners to and from the courts in Knoxville, as well as the families of the prisoners coming from to and from Knoxville. The commute is there. It's highway accessible. The plot of land is huge. It's got plenty of space, and it's away from the city, so it's not to be an eyesore, and it's more towards the east side. So if you were coming from a major city in Tennessee, such as Memphis or even Nashville, you would be coming into Knoxville from the west side, I believe. So you wouldn't even see it unless you're on your way east. So as far as the location is, that's why I chose that. Now on to the description of the facility. Like I said, it's close to everything. It's 11.7 miles away from a hospital. It's 2.2 miles away from fire department. It's got 5 total buildings. It's going to be set in a property that is a square formation with double razor wire going all the way around it. It's got 4 corners, so a police control tower / shooter tower will be in each of those corners, and in between those corners will also be another additional security tower / shooter tower. So there's 8 total towers. We want a lot of security for this place. So that's the design of the outside structure. Inside is more of a pentagon shape of buildings. There's 5 buildings. The 2 buildings in front, which would be the bottom of the pentagon, are the administrative building / officers, quarters and lockers and stuff like that. And the other building is the medical facility, which has many tiers to it. All buildings on this premise that within the pentagon of buildings are 4 stories tall. In the center of this pentagon of buildings is the recreational yard, and there are plenty of windows from the medical facility and the administrative building on which to look onto this area. There will be a medium security prison. So what we're doing is we're trying to house as many as we can. So this prison facility will be set up a different way from the normal. We're trying to go through a pod style, much more like the jails do. I do realize that this will require more space because prisons have to have more population than jails. But I think it's attainable, and I think it's better off for the staff because they will have more space. They will have more ability to be personable with the inmates. It will take less staff to watch the prisoners, and they will have more control within their pod to pretty much run the show with a minimum amount of security staff. And that is what we want. We don't want to have too much staff because we need them in other areas, so we should try to give them as much responsibility as they can without overtasking them, which is why we assign at least 3 officers to a pod at one time for supervisory purposes. On to the security measures that are put in place. even though it's a medium security prison, and those are usually cells, individual cells, like I said before, I'm going to the pod style. It's a better approach to inmate supervision. It's a medium security facility, again, that requires double fences all the way around. I have an electronic detection system in place. Staff members are have more internal controls with the medium security prison. So there will be officers assigned to a center station within a pod, and they have control over most of the cameras, door locks, intercom systems, radio traffic, and other security measures controls. For the roles and the responsibilities of the corrections officers at Knoxville Correctional Facility, they are responsible for the basics will be laid out. There's nothing new to invent in corrections other than the fact that these officers need to perform security is the #1 priority, but they need to perform security to the T, by the book standards, so that it will later on equal to lower recidivism rates across the board for these inmates, so that they can actually rehab. So the better the security measures are, the better chance that the prisoners have of reaching rehabilitation, because everything will be set up and structured for them to succeed. There won't be any slack for them to just kind of waste away on their own. So like I said, the responsibilities are enforcing the rules and regulations in order to keep order within the facility, supervise activities of inmates, help inmates rehabilitate and counsel them, and ensure the facility meets the standards for inspections, search for contraband items, and report inmate conduct. So the programs that we offer here at Knoxville, we like to have a lot of victim offender mediation, which allows the victim to come in and talk to the inmate, and they reach some kind of closure between the two of them. That helps the inmate with their healing process of recognizing that they made a mistake and what they need to do to fix it. It gives them, it relieves them of the burden of feeling guilty, although they still might feel guilty. Once they get the chance to say sorry, they can move on and try to better themselves. Faith-based programs, whatever religion an inmate wants to practice, we will try to offer that. Obviously, there are some that are just outlandish, so we'll try to curtail to the budget as much as we can. Educational programs, we want these inmates to at least get their GED. Once they get their GED, we can move on to having them involved in skilled trades programs, which will help them have an education first and then develop a skilled trade, so that makes them hireable as soon as they get outside the prison walls. Next, we'll have a drug treatment program counseling, and that will be in the medical facility, and that is to help reduce recidivism in order to help these inmates have the tools necessary to fight off the addiction that they were suffering before they entered, ways to prevent them getting back into that addiction cycle and then back into prison. And those are the following programs that I would be offering, so we can produce more productive, law-abiding citizens back into public. As far as my daily operations, prisoners wake up at 6:30. They're going to have 15 minutes of leisure time. Then they're going to have 15 minutes of phone calls. 45 minutes of phone calls. After they wake up at 6:30 and they have their leisure time and phone calls, at 7:15 we'll be serving breakfast. Breakfast runs from 7:15 to 7:45, so a half hour. After that half hour, there is a 15-minute window of leisure time, and then after that, during that leisure time, phone calls are allowed as well. At 0800, there will be roll call, and that lasts usually a half hour, so everyone is accounted for. From 0830 to 12:30, there is leisure time. Now, those are the inmates that won't be actively participating in any educational programs or any skilled trades programs. They will be leisure leisure time, and that also means that the people that aren't doing leisure time are in their program. So leisure time can mean inmates are bettering themselves, or they're just sitting there doing whatever. From 1200 to 1300 is lunch, and then 1300 to 1700 again is leisure time, and that could be interpreted the same way as I said before. Dinner is at 1700 to 1730, and then more leisure from 1730 to 2000 hours. So around 8 o'clock is evening roll call, and that lasts a half hour, so that's 2000 to 2300 or 2030 hours. And then sleep time, or time of retiring, is from 20:30, so 8:30 to 06:30 a.m. And then every day continues on after that. So lastly, why is security the top priority? And I had mentioned this before in the beginning when I was talking about my correctional officers' roles and responsibilities. So security is the #1 priority of correctional officers because they have a responsibility to protect the citizens. The best way of going about protecting society, in my opinion, is to have sound security practices. So sound security practices are achieved through confining convicted persons in a secure, safe, and humane way. If corrections officers fail in their duty of security, then any treatment program will be ineffective towards their rehabilitation. An example of this is, let's say an officer fails to log that an inmate is acting out in an insubordinate way. What does that do for that inmate? It does nothing. So security measures are that an officer must log all the details of happenings going on around him, including insubordinate behavior by an inmate. So that inmate doesn't get the help that they need. They don't get the retribution that they need, that they have coming towards them. So how can an inmate excel in behavior and rehabilitation if the guards aren't meeting their basic requirements that are within their security practices? So security practices go into the #1 priority, which is security. So safe, sound practices. Every officer does their job by the book within the code of ethics that they have. They follow their security measures. They log everything. They do everything that they're told, and that helps everyone progress within the unit. There is accountability. There's structure. There's room for inmates to know that they are being punished and find a way to do something about it. Without accountability by these officers, these inmates will never want or feel the need to progress. So that is my presentation of my prison and a little bit of what I've learned in this class so far. I hope the video isn't too long, but I apologize if it is, and I will post this on YouTube for view.